division between day and night. The Lord of hosts is thy name. Blessed art thou, O Lord, who bringest on the evening twilight. We read together page 15. With everlasting love hast thou loved the house of Israel, thy people. A law and commandments, statutes and judgments hast thou taught us. Therefore, O Lord our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will discourse of thy statutes. We rejoice and exult in the instructive words of thy Torah, commandments and statutes forever and ever. For they are our life and the prolongation of our days, and on them we meditate day and night. May thy love never depart from us. Blessed art thou, O Lord, who lovest thy people Israel. Please stand for the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Baruch Shem Kevo Malkuto Leolam Vaed. Blessed be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever and ever.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Vaed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר לנו כמצווך היום על לבביך, ושמלמתם לבניך ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובחומך, ושרתם על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בינניך, וכתבתם על מזוז ביתך ובשעריך.
We continue together on page 16. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thy heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children. Thou shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house and when thou walkest by the way, when thou liest down and when thou risest up. Thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thy house and upon thy gates. You may be seated. We continue together. And it shall come to pass, if ye shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give the rain of your land in its due season, the former rain and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thine oil. And I will give grass in thy field for thy cattle, and thou shalt eat and be satisfied. Take heed to yourselves, lest your heart be deceived, and ye turn aside and serve other gods and worship them, and the anger of the Lord will be kindled against you, and he will shut up the heaven that there be no rain, and the land will not yield her fruit, and ye perish quickly from off the goodly land which the Lord giveth you. Therefore shall ye lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and ye shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes. Ye shall teach them to your children, talking of them when thou sittest in thy house and when thou walkest by the way, when thou liest down and when thou risest up. And thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thy house and upon thy gates, that your days may be multiplied in the days of your children, upon the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers to give them, as the days of the heavens above the earth. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונעתנו על ציצית הכנף בתל תכלת, היה לכם לציצית, הורדתם אותו, זרקתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחר לבבכם, ואחר עיניכם מה שאתם זונים אחריהם. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם. Amen. Our hymn this evening is the hymn for Passover, and you can find it on page 83, and we'll do the Hebrew as well as the English for it. Adir Hu.
Adir Hu, Adir Hu, Ibne Beitum Bekaron, Bimhero, Bimhero, Beyameinu Bekaron, Bnei Betecha Bekaron, Bagur Hu, Gadol Hu, Ibne Beitum Bekaron, Bimhero, Bimhero, Beyameinu Bekaron, Bnei Betecha Bekaron, Gadol Hu, Hador Hu, Ibne Beitum Bekaron, Bimhero, Bimhero, Beyameinu Bekaron, Bnei Betecha Bekaron. God of might, God of right, thee we give all glory. Thine all praise increases as in ages glory. When we hear, year by year, freedom's wondrous story. Be with all who enthrall to their task are driven. In the past speed beyond when their chains are riven. Earth around will resound, leave hands to heaven.
Just a couple of announcements. As I mentioned before, many of you came in after. There are two ways to get into the hotel area, if you wish, or maybe more than one, but two that I'm aware of now. One is that you can come up Belmont Road onto Worthington, and there's a gate near to the top of Worthington. You'll see the big tents on your left. You turn in there. If you want to come up, you can. If you want to come up through Lady Musgrave onto Trafalgar, you can either turn down on on Worthington, I expect, but you could go along for a little while longer. So about maybe another 100 or so meters down Trafalgar Road. There's a little slip road on your left, and if you know the little slip road on your left, and then there's a gate on your left that you can turn into to be able to get into the tent area as well and the parking area as well. So there are two ways. Most of us kind of live in town know that little slip road, so you're going down Trafalgar, going west, and then you take a left and then left right if you wish, and then the gate is on your left, or you can come up off of Oxford Road onto Belmont and come straight up. Okay? For those of you who still have to get your tickets or take care of any payments or anything, our secretary manager, Angela Foot, will be at the gate. Please stop with her, settle up, get your tickets, whatever you need to do, please, and then you can come into the area. All right, because we don't want to have to run you down. So just take care of everything for me, please, at the gate, and everything will be okay. Look forward. We have a wonderful amount. We have, I understand from Margaret, about 130 of us going to be there tonight, and I suppose if there are any last minute people, I think there's enough. Terry, where's Terry? Tara, about, I think there's as much as 140 we can manage tonight as well, right? Okay. So if you know that you haven't booked but you'd like to be there, and you can come. We'll accommodate. It's not something we like to do all the time, but it's okay. We'll never turn anyone away. Please remember that after our wonderful festivities tonight and everything else, that we do have service tomorrow morning, and I would really appreciate a minion so we can enjoy the entire service. I know one was last week, but we had a couple of weeks that were a little short, so look forward to you being here tomorrow as well. Especially Dylan tomorrow, picking you out tomorrow, right? Right? I don't care. Find a way. See Dad sitting beside you, can tell him bring you come. All right? Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for bearing with me through those notices. Service will continue, page 18, with responsive reading. True and firmly establishes all this with us, that he is the Lord our God with none besides him, and we Israel are his people. He is the God who avenged us of our adversaries and dealt out a recompense to the enemies of our souls. He hath caused us to tread on the high places of our enemies and exalted our horn above all who hate us. In his wrath he smote all the firstborn of Egypt and brought out his people Israel from among them unto everlasting freedom. His children beheld his might. They praised and gave thanks to his name, and willingly submitted to his dominion. See, O Lord our God, thy children beheld thy majesty. All together they praised thee, proclaiming thy kingly power, and said, Adonai Elohe Olam Vaed, the Lord shall reign forever and ever. Blessed art thou, O Lord, who hast redeemed Israel. Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu, Avinu leShalom. Sukkot Shalomecha v'takinenu be'etzah tova milefanecha Sukkot Rakamim v'Shalom Baruch atah
Blessed art thou, O Lord, who spreadest the tabernacle of peace over us, and over thy people Israel, over Jerusalem, and over all mankind. Amen. We please stand for the Bishomru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם. בני ובן בני ישראל, עוד היא לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, וילמד ברכתי וימליך מלכותי, ישמח בקני וקרב משפי, בחייכו יומכו ובחייכו בית ישראל, וגאווה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יש לרבה מברך ולמריאה מעליה יתברך וישתבח, יתפר ותרומן ויתנשא ויתודה ויתעלה ויתלש וקודשה בריקוד, ללמין כל ברכתה שירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה, דמירון דיאמה ואמרו אמן.
We continue together, middle of page 21. In this moment of silent communion with Thee, O God, a still small voice speaks in the depth of my spirit. It speaks to me of the things I must do to attain holy kinship with Thee and to grow in the likeness of Thee. I must do my allotted task with unflagging faithfulness, even though the eye of no taskmaster is on me. I must be gentle in the face of ingratitude, or when slander distorts my noblest motives. I must come to the end of each day with a feeling that I have used its gifts gratefully and faced its trials bravely. O Lord, help me to be ever more like Thee, holy for Thou art holy, loving for Thou art loving. Speak to me then, O Lord, as I seek Thee again and again in the stillness of meditation, until Thy bidding shall at last become for me a hallowed discipline, a familiar way of life, so that I may live on in deeds that bless other lives and leave behind me the heritage of a good name. Amen. You may take a few moments for silent prayer, or if it be your wish, you may chant the Amidah on page 39 and 40 silently. Continue together, page 21. O my God, guard my tongue from evil and my lips from uttering deceit. Let my soul be silent towards those that curse me, and grant that my soul may be humble as the dust to everyone. Open my heart to receive thy Torah, that my soul may pursue thy commandments. Speedily, I beseech thee, frustrate the devices and destroy the machinations of all those who rise up against me for evil. O grant it for the sake of thy name, grant it for the sake of thy right hand, grant it for the sake of thy Torah, grant it for the sake of thy holiness. O save me with thy right hand, and answer me.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer.
O say shalom imromav, uvrachamav yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen.
Yom HaSheshivah Yacholu HaShamayim V'Haaretz V'chol Sevam V'yechol Elohim V'yom HaShvi Melachto Asher Asah Vayishpot Vayom Hashvi Michol Melachto Asher Asah Vayivarech Elohim et Yom Hashvi Vayikadesh Oto Ki vo Shabbat Michol Melachto Ki vo Shabbat Michol Melachto Asher bara Elohim Asher bara Elohim Lasot.
We continue together, page 22. Our God and God of our fathers, accept, we beseech thee, our rest. Sanctify us with thy commandments and grant our portion in thy Torah. Satisfy us with thy goodness, gladden our souls with thy salvation, and purify our hearts to serve thee in truth. Cause us, O Lord our God, to inherit thy holy Sabbath with love and delight, and grant that all Israel who hallow thy name may have rest thereon. Blessed art thou, O Lord, who hallowest the Sabbath. O eternal Father, the generations of men come and go before thee. Brief is their existence. Many are the tasks still unfinished, the plans unfulfilled, the dreams unrealized when we are summoned to leave this earthly home. Yet we lift up our souls to thee, that our little day may find its permanence as part of thine eternity, and our work its completeness in thee. At this hallowed hour we turn our thoughts to our beloved departed, and recall the tender companionship of their earthly presence. Though their mortal career has ended, they have not vanished from our hearts. By love are they remembered, and in memory they live. Grant us, O God, strength and blessing through the memory of our departed. May the noble purposes which inspired them and the high ideals which they cherished endure in our thoughts and live in our actions. Amen. And let us sanctify those who have gone, the names of those who have gone before us. The Mourners Kaddish, page 22-23. It kadal vet kadal shemeraba. Vialma devra kirote viamlik malkote viatzmar kukane vikareb meshike. Bekay kol mekulim v'chayav dechol be'Yisrael ba'alav v'zman kariv v'emru. Amen. Yesheme Rava Mevrak Lelam Neal Maya Yet Barak. Bishtabak Vita Par Vichuman Vitna Se Vitadar Vitale Vitalal Shemede Kusha Bereku. Lelamin Kol Berkata Shirata Tishbekata Venakamata Damiran Bealma. Vemru. Amen. Shlama Rava Min Shamaya Kaim Vesava Yeshua. Venakama Veshazbar Efwa. Gala Salaka Vakapara. Velvak Vehatzala Lano Kolamo Yisrael. Vemru. Amen. Ose Shalom Ibramav. Uvrachamav Yase Shalom. Aleinu Ve'al Chol Yisrael. Vemru. Amen.
עושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ויכול ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ויכול ישראל, 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 עושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ויכול ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
To all our beloved departed whom we now remember, may peace and bliss be granted in life eternal. May the Father of peace send peace to all who mourn, comfort any bereaved among us. Let us say, and these are the set feasts of the Lord, the holy convocations which he shall proclaim in their appointed seasons. You may be seated. And service will continue with Hallelujah this evening instead of the 23rd Psalm on page 68. On page 68.
Hallelujah, 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 make a show, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
We'll ask Mark if you'd be kind enough to, and I need to get you some voice. Yeah, go upstairs. And you're up.
Hag Sameach, everybody. So, what's that? Oh, up there. Wow. All right. So, what leads us up to the reading this week is we all know the Passover story begins when the Pharaoh starts worrying that the Jews living in Egypt will outnumber his own people. Right? So his response, he forces them into slavery and decrees that every son born to the Hebrews shall be drowned in the Nile. It's the founding anti-Semitic story that for Jews and others has come to symbolize persecution more broadly and the historical struggles to endure it. When my father first came to Jamaica, I remember him telling me there was a foreman at Caymanas called Pharaoh by the workers. So it just goes on and on. There's musicals, there's endless songs. Half of early reggae is about this whole concept. It's been of the world. Anyway, one baby named Moses, of course, is saved and adopted by Pharaoh's own daughter. Moses grows up. He's told by God to command Pharaoh to let the Jews go. Pharaoh says no, and God sets out to convince him by way of the 10 plagues. So, as we open our story this week with the readings, by now the Israelites have lived in Egypt for 430 years. It's time for God to fulfill his promise to liberate them from Egypt. So before anything happens, Moses says to the elders, remember, these children will ask, what does this ceremony mean? And you will reply, it is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord, for he passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt, and though he struck the Egyptians, he spared our families. And so the stress beginning now in Jude to remember foundationally before it happened. And we have, even in 2019, the celebration now tonight, which some observers say the blood of a lamb or a goat and paint it on your house, and I'll pass over your homes and not kill you. And I mean, if you read it, it's apocalyptic. Rashi, the commentator, says, if there was no firstborn in the house, then the oldest household member was called the firstborn. And the firstborn of everybody in Egypt, even if it was just somebody who just happened to be in Egypt at that time, a non-Egyptian, they were also killed. Even he does not discriminate between righteous and wicked. I mean, this is brutal. It's hard to square this stuff. You know, like a lot of stuff in the Bible, we have to kind of take of it in bits and pieces and think about it. I think it's worthwhile to note that we remove drops of wine during the Seder to symbolize the lessening of our wine, the lessening of our happiness. We put them on our plate in sympathy with the Egyptian children killed in Egypt. So, you know, there's no way any glorification of all this death. Anyway, as we know, on that night, all the firstborn are killed. Pharaoh, it's out of his head, tells them all to leave. The common man also wants them to leave. They're terrified that they're going to die. So 600,000 men leave. Surprising, it's a lot of people. And also the women and children, of course, and many non-Israelites too, along with, of course, all the livestock, and they take the famous unleavened bread. They wander for 40 years until all the men that had left Egypt were dead. And Joshua is now made their leader. And he actually has to circumcise all the males that now compose the population. They aren't circumcised. They were born on the run. So this is sort of a starting over. And it says, for they had disobeyed the Lord. And the Lord vowed he would not let them enter the land he had sworn to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. So this is the reestablishment of the covenant with these circumcisions. Then the Lord said to Joshua, today I have rolled away the shame of your slavery in Egypt. The Israelites celebrate Passover in the desert, and we end all the readings this week on the cusp of the siege of Jericho, with Joshua's fame spreading throughout the land and with God fully backing him. And again, there's a lot of contradictory and interesting things in these portions. It's a reminder of the fallibility of the Israelites. If you can't help but seeing that when you read it, a quarrelsomeness, their lack of steadfastness sometimes, and God himself seems capricious, cruel sometimes. Before this portion, we saw God hardening Pharaoh's heart over and over, and we're told it's just to make a show of what he can do, even though this is going to bring misery to everybody over and over again, not just the rulers, but everybody in Egypt. Then God sort of hypnotizes the Egyptians to look favorably on the Israelites so that they will give them all their valuables. I mean, it's just odd. Why are we taking all the Egyptians' stuff, all their wealth? I can't imagine the common Egyptian really had it out for the Israelites. The rulers, of course, were awful. But then another contradiction, it says, no outsiders are allowed to eat the Passover meal. Then just a bit later it says, well, if there are foreigners among you, as long as they're circumcised, yeah, they can have the Passover meal, like any native-born Israelite. So tons of contradictions, and many observers, of course, have wrestled with all of this, parsed it over for centuries and millennia. And some of them, we always have to talk about and think about. One funny thing is the Pharaoh says at one point, get out. So when he tells him to leave, he goes, oh, but first, can you bless me? Which I found interesting. He's hedging his bets. It's sort of like the Pascal's wager. If you've heard of that, in the 1600s, Pascal, the philosopher, said, listen, you really should believe in God, just sensibly, because if he doesn't exist, you'll only have a finite loss, some pleasures and luxury, whereas you stand to receive infinite gains as represented by eternity in heaven, and avoid infinite losses, eternity in hell, if it turns out that you're right. So you should really believe in God. So I guess Pharaoh came to that same conclusion. But in any case, this is, it's become legend, and just look at the names of all these operations to take Jews out of bondage since the war. Operation on Wings of Eagles, 50,000 Jews from Yemen, Djibouti, Saudi Arabia, and Eritrea to Israel in 1949 and 50. Operations Mural, Yachin, 100,000 Jews out of Morocco in the 60s. Operation Moses, 8,000 Jews from Sudan during a civil war in 1984, which only stopped once Shimon Peres actually announced it, and the Arab countries found out about it and pressured Sudan to stop letting it happen. Another 1,000 Jews evacuated in Operation Joshua, Operation 1991. Operation Exodus, program run by the Jewish Federation in the States, 700,000 Jews from Russia and Ethiopia to Israel and America. And they raised triple the amount of money they asked for that. People beginning particularly in the 1960s, again saw Passover now beginning as an allegory for struggles such as the civil rights movement, as well they should have. Now in our time, of course, we're seeing an alarming resurgence of anti-Semitism in places like Europe, the one place they should, of course, know better. And anyone who's seen the hidden camera videos in the Paris suburbs of people wearing a yarmulke and see the abuse they're openly, shamedly, and outwardly can't help but be shocked to the interestingly, one of the most famous of the videos was made by an Israeli Arab who put on a yarmulke and walked around the banlieue and was just took opprobrium from beginning to end. So anyway, anyone who thinks that in our easy modern life, with all of our comforts, the state of Israel is some abstract idea to admire and visit, of its absolute critical place to safeguard Jewish life in the world. When Fukuyama wrote in The End of History that liberal democracy and capitalism basically signaled the end point of humans, evolution, final form of government, I'm sure he's incredibly dismayed now at the illiberalism, the bitterness and lashing out that we're living through right now across the globe, places that would seem impossible not long ago. So I'm reminded of the photo a friend sent me a few years ago of a long line of Israeli F-16s at the Hakiria base with their